What's up, everybody? Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whenever you may be listening. I want to talk to you guys today about how I was a victim of fraud. Ordered 3 things of sauerkraut, and the courier showed up with this thing of wine. It's like 90 cents. I did not order it. It also didn't show up in my sauerkraut. But I just can't believe how cheap everything here is in Argentina. I'm definitely going to come back here next year, probably March timeframe. Anyways, so what I wanted to talk to y'all about today is my transition from going from a salesperson to an executive. Now, I spent an exorbitant amount of money, at least $32,000, learning from mentors across the world, learning from people that were the best in their field. So people such as Ryan Stewman, Brian Purley, Sammy Knight, Adam Lyons, to accelerate from where I was to an executive and knowing how to manage a business and a team, as opposed to just being a salesperson. Now, why this is important is because before this, what I'd been doing was I had been managing my time the same way that I was as if I was a salesperson. And the reason this was problematic was because my calendar, it used to look like this, where it would look like this. It would just be meetings after meetings after meetings after meetings nonstop. And why we can't do that as an executive is because if we're not working on the business, then we're just a slave to the business. And it means we're not actually moving the needle or solving the main constraints within the business. Now, I've talked a lot about this on this channel about prioritization, or excuse me. What really matters is how do we manage ourselves? Because if we can't manage ourselves, then our castle that we're building is built on a foundation of sand and it's going to crumble beneath it. And so this is why I don't believe in discounting my program or giving you guys discounts on the program, because I spent so much time, money, and resources on my journey that how could I ever give a discount on the blood, sweat, and tears that I put into this? So wanted to illustrate everything that I'm including as part of this is prioritization mastery. How to figure out what are the main constraints in the business, and then what are the options to actually solve those constraints. Because any private equity firm that acquires your business, say for example, some private equity firm buys your business for 30%. Now, in that acquisition, where they're going to understand where your business is today and what are the main levers to pull in order to take that business to the next level. And it all comes down to prioritization. And there's only 5 constraints in a business at any given time. So that's part of the things that we're going to be walking through. Then how do we actually identify what is the main constraint that's holding back growth? Now, the good news is you don't need to give PE firm 30% of your business to figure out how to prioritize. But the other thing that was really big for me that made a big difference was understanding the P&L, understanding how to read a P&L. And because if you don't, like I talked about this before, where I spent $8,000 on training. And the only way I was able to figure out that I was spending an exorbitant amount of money on training was because I knew how to read a P&L. So being able to identify the waste. So for example, the things that I look at every month when reading the P&L are what are the top 10 expenses, then what are the bottom 10 expenses? Because if the top 10 expenses are increasing with revenue, then it's fine. Or at the same rate of growth as revenue, then it's fine. But oftentimes where we find the most amount of waste is actually looking at the bottom 10 expenses. Because understanding the bottom 10 expenses, we can say, okay, how do we cut down on this? Or say, for example, oh my God, we spent $3,000 on toilet paper. How did this happen? Now, hiring. This is probably the most important thing. In order to build and scale a business, this is something that I learned from Ryan Steeman, was we need to know how to hire and train people. As a builder, this is the most important foundational skill. Because if we can't, then how do we expect to run a business and run everything on our own? Do we just want to do we want to be a solopreneur forever? Or do we actually want to build a team? Because if we're a solopreneur, then there's no actual value, there's no enterprise value that we've created, as we are the business. Now, deep work. How do we actually structure and manage our time as an executive on a day-to-day basis? Answering this question is probably the most important. How do we plan our days? How do we plan our week? The reason this matters is because going back to my calendar, it's so easy to get overwhelmed in the scheme of things. For example, today I'm focusing on just content, and it's 10:20 here in the morning in Buenos Aires, where I'm just focusing on content. Now, I've structured my day like that because it's a lot more, I structure my Mondays like that because it's a lot more efficient for me just record everything in one go, as opposed to using up my other deep work times throughout the week to record content. So answering that question is as well something that we're going to be able to do and work with you to build the exact deep work routine that's best for you, based on what time of day you find the most efficient. Now, distractions. There's really only ever two things that get in the way of success. It's distractions and limiting beliefs. Because limiting beliefs hamper our ability to take action. They hamper our ability to take the right actions towards our goals. Now, here's the best definition of confidence that I've ever found. I create my reality by enforcing my beliefs, which in return allow me to remain consistent with my inputs, even when the external world does not validate them by showing results. It will test me, but I know I can do it. Now, I've struggled with self-doubt in the past, where doubting myself has led me to not go for the girl that I was interested in, that I was the most interested in, not take my shot, or not push back on a client because I believe what it is that they were saying instead of the truth of what it is that I was offering. And then distractions. So our ability to work deeply is the new superpower of the 21st century. What do I mean by that? Well, I mean, if we're constantly getting distracted by our phones, and we are up against somebody who's focused and deliberate about where they're putting their attention, versus somebody whose attention is hijacked by social media, their phone, and the dopamine rush or the serotonin feedback loop that we're getting from it, who do you think is going to win? The person that's deliberate and intentional about where they're putting their focus, or the person that is letting the world dictate their focus? Another analogy to drive this home is, if we're looking at different things and dividing our attention, this is the level of output that we're going to get on each thing that we're dividing our attention, versus as somebody that focuses on one thing for a prolonged period of time is going to get this result. I was even listening to Lex Fridman's podcast with Jeff Bezos yesterday, and Bezos was talking about the same thing, is that he's very deliberate about practicing long-form focus and activities that cultivate long-form focus. And so while we're watching TikToks or Reels, we're literally reprogramming our brains to be consuming short-term gratification and short-form content through short-form content. So if we have a mouse on a hamster wheel, and then we give that mouse a piece of cheese after every 10 seconds, that mouse is going to be accustomed to that, eating that piece of cheese every 10 seconds. But if we make that mouse run for 30 minutes or an hour on the wheel before it gets the piece of cheese, then the reward mechanism is going to be about doing the hard thing and getting the exercise. And it's going to expect, now that we have that mouse on a wheel doing the exercise, it's like, okay, for me to get the cheese, I need to exercise. I need to do the hard thing and go on the wheel for 30 minutes. Now, it's the same thing when we're focusing on our habits. So as part of this program, guys, I'm giving you and a bonus, I'm giving you the exact roadmap that I used to optimize my day. Then also on rest. Now, so we all hear these things on the internet about rest and everything, but I want to give you, just on this alone, I spent 12K on a program to help me with my sleep. And as part of that, I also learned how to maximize my immune function and everything that I need to do to get the best optimal rest. So I can show up today and I can show up every day at my absolute best. Now, in addition to that, I'll also give you guys a copy of my habit tracker, just as a bonus, as part of the program. So each one of these require, you could find a code for online for every one of these. Now, my meditation routine as well, I want to talk about that because a friend of mine asked me about this, but I've spent 1,500 on learning how to meditate. So for me, what helps me is the financial accountability of these investments, number one. But number two, because I get so much, it motivates me so much more to put the money down and say, okay, I'm going to learn this, as opposed to just, for example, pirating something on the internet. And no judgment. I mean, you can do that if you want. But for me, what I get a lot more out of is I actually want the relationship of the person that I'm doing business with. And I also want the info or the accountability in addition to the info, financial accountability. I don't know. I struggled a lot to say that. But getting back to meditating. So I meditate for 30 minutes every day, guided Joe Dispenza meditation. Plus, I do 30 minutes before I go to bed. Now, the 30 minutes before going to bed puts my body in a deep relaxation state that exponentially increases the quality of my sleep. It's insane how much of a difference just doing the 30-minute meditation before bed makes on my sleep. Now, the 30 minutes of meditation in the mornings, I don't do an hour in the mornings because I want to get started on my day. And so the 30 minutes in the morning, though, helps me set the pace for the entire day. So that matters because it's like most people go throughout life living unconsciously. Now, there's so much like all those tinfoil hat motherfuckers always say like, oh, people are sheep and etc. And I hate that word for it because of the people that tend to use it. And generally they coming from a very conceited or arrogant place. But the truth is that most people are unconscious, where we live, for example, I had a lot of rejection trauma as a teenager, and that made me feel a lot of self-doubt, and that made me that trying to find the words. So you can see there's like it's traumatic because it's hard for me to talk about. Had a lot of rejection trauma that led me to feel like I had something to prove to other people. And sometimes I'm not perfect. Sometimes it'll come up maybe 5% the amount of times that it used to. But I had this massive chip on my shoulder that I was carrying with me to every relationship and every interaction. Like there was something that I had to prove to other people. And I just kept doing that. I just kept doing that until, I mean, I drank a lot of ayahuasca, but outside of that, what ayahuasca showed me was the importance of mindfulness. And that's what meditation gives us. It gives us the ability to pause and stop and say, okay, this is how I'm showing up right now. How do I want to show up? And then it gives us the mental training for us to show up how we want to show up. It's like going to the gym and saying, hey, starting going to the gym, maybe I can do 6 reps of bench press. Then the next day, do 8 reps of bench press. And the next day, we can do 10 reps of bench press. Meditation works the same way on our minds, where it gives us the ability to have greater willpower and greater attention to where it is that we're putting our intention. So overall, I talked about the P&L example, but that's just like one example. Each one of these is one example of all these different 11 pieces. And this is just a YouTube video. Imagine how much deeper we're going to be able to go working together. Now, I want you guys to experience this because I want for you to experience the freedom that I've been able to have over the last year and a half. I was able to fly business, able to travel across 2 continents. Now I'm here living in South America. I don't know where, I would not want to live anywhere else other than South America. And the only way that I've been able to do that is build my online business and work in a way that I have freedom. So the bonuses that I talked about as far as habit mastery and the habit tracking framework, that's only going to be available until the 25th. So you have 1 week. So I suggest you guys book a call description. Book a call. The link is in the description. Can't talk today, apparently. Book a call. The link is in the description if you want to take advantage of that. I suggest booking a call in the next 2 to 3 days because I only have room for 2 more clients. If you want me to put together your 6-month to 100K per month profit roadmap, and I'm actually doubling the prices after Christmas. So I'm getting a lot of inquiries right now. I'm getting about 2 to 3 meetings per day of people that want to work with me. So if you'd like for us to work on that implementation roadmap, in addition to getting all these limited time bonuses of your transition to an executive. So you not only get the 100K per month, but you can actually keep the 100K per month profit and sustain it over time. Because otherwise, or you could just keep going what it is that you're doing and keep being a subscriber, and that's totally fine. I appreciate you watching my content. But you could spend the 32K and then the 15 months that I spent learning, doing everything on your own for various online sources, and then figuring this out as you go. Or you can have me as a supportive older brother, holding your hand every step of the way as we get you there. So anyways, book a call, link in the description. See you later.